What is the current relationship that I have with my mom like is a question I get asked all the time. Hey, this is Ryan Thomas, and in this video, I'm going to give you a very important status update. Now, it has been 9 years since I made a YouTube video outlining exactly where I was in the relationship with my mom after discovering what was happening, discovering that I was an alienated child, but also still wanting to have a relationship with her, even after having a blackout period where I wasn't talking to her, when I was trying to figure things out. So let's just do a quick refresh of what I said back then.
I actually do have a relationship with my mom and with the regime, although some of my family members have passed away. I have a very guarded relationship with boundaries that are set up. The situation with my mom, she too has made strides and gains in seeing me as an adult and sort of respecting that.
Now, in addition to getting older, let me tell you, a lot has changed. Unfortunately, it has been 6 years now since I have seen or talked to my mom. And it's really too bad when I hear myself say that, because my best intentions was to have a good, loving relationship with my mom and my dad. I really always strive to have that relationship. I didn't want to just switch allegiances where my mom was good and my dad was bad. Now I'm back with my dad and I find out what my mom did, and now I'm mad at her and now I don't talk to her. And I did that for a while. And then I recognized it was hard to hold up those walls. I wanted to see if I could have a relationship with her that was based on mutual respect and love, but also have some boundaries. And for a number of years, it kind of sort of worked. There were moments that I had with my mom that were authentic and genuine. And we even took a cross-country trip together and had a lot of great conversations about the situation, my upbringing, the family dynamics, the idea that there's a lot of other people that were controlling the shots and making her and I do things that we both really didn't want to do. But ultimately, if you are in an environment and a constant echo chamber of negativity and hostility and lies and manipulation, it's really hard to make the break from that negative mindset. And that is what my mom has been living in. My mom lives with my aunt. My grandparents have passed away. They live in their family home, and my mom is pretty socked in to this negative thought process. And unfortunately, a leopard doesn't change its spot. People don't change unless they want to. People don't change unless they realize, oh, this is a mistake. This is a pattern that I'm continuing to say over and over and over, in behaviors that I'm doing that aren't getting me there, that aren't creating a close, loving relationship based on mutual respect and boundaries. And unfortunately, that's what happened. That's what happened in my relationship. Despite my best efforts to have a relationship, I do not have a relationship with my mom. So what happened, right? What happened to this grandiose idea that I had that I could have a relationship with a little bit of success along the way? Well, let me take you back 6 years ago. I live on the other side of the country from both my mom and my dad, which both live in the same area. And so I had this idea that I would go back to my hometown and have a summer vacation with my mom and a summer vacation with my dad. I decided that I would spend a couple days with my mom and my aunt at their home, and we would go to a summer camp, which they were very gracious in paying for and taking care of, and then spending time on the back end at their home. I would be picked up from the airport, spend that time, then make the switch and transition to my dad, and then spend uninterrupted time with my dad. In essence, I spent 12 days with my mom and my aunt, and about the middle way through, towards the end, there was a conversation about what was going to happen next. And I had made the comment that it was really nice to have this uninterrupted time and that I was going to now go to my dad's. And this conversation was, well, when are we going to see you next? Well, when are you going to come over? So wait a minute, you're not going to come over for lunch? You're not going to come over for dinner? And I said, well, no, I just spent 12 uninterrupted days with you. Now I'm going to go and spend 8 days with dad. And just like I didn't split time between then, it's going to be all about, where it was all about you, now it's going to be all about dad. And it was like I was a child all over again. The outrage, how dare you, the tears that came. It was as if I had done nothing right. and I was some horrible person. And I can't believe you're going to do this. And then through the tears of both my mom and aunt, it was, so we're not going to see you again. So this is it. And then it dawned on them, well, what about the airport? We're taking you to the airport, aren't we? And I said, well, no. Dad, you picked me up and I spent time with you. Now I'm spending time with Dad. And now Dad's going to take me to the airport. And you would have thought that I point blank shot their dogs. They could not believe it. It was pandemonium. My aunt, who is especially volatile and really sets the emotional tone for the dynamic and the situation and massive influence on my mom, there was slamming doors and screaming and yelling. And that was actually when I finally said that. That was the last time I really talked to my aunt. She just ignored me, and honestly, I ignored her. But I was so stressed out. You know, here I am in my late 30s, almost 40, and I was treated like a child again. And all of those same emotions as a child also came back out. I was guilty. Was this wrong? Was it bad? Where did I go wrong? 12 days and it's not enough? And so all of these old emotions started to play. And I was so stressed out. I will tell you, it was in July and it was the summer, and I found refuge in the bedroom, and there was a TV on, and the Hallmark Christmas in July was on. And let me tell you, I really think that having that calm and that peace of just that television show, it really calmed me down. It kind of saved my life, as funny as it sounds. But I needed Christmas in July in that moment because I was so stressed out. And the really unfortunate part is that we had a really nice time. Sure, there was some of the old wirings of how the interaction and the dynamic went, but by and large, it was okay. But as soon as I once again asserted myself, as soon as I once again had to feel like I was choosing my dad over them, and there was this who gets more and who gets more time, and why are we having to take the back seat to him, and all of this chaos and stress, once again, all these years later, it was so needless. It was so ridiculous that it had to happen. And this is the type of stress and chaos that children have to live with all the time. And I was living proof. Didn't matter whether I was 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old. Now I'm almost 40 years old, and I am made to feel like a child who is doing something bad. Now, the really ironic part is that in this whole retelling of the story, I find out that my mom, who's complaining to other people, says he only gave us 4 days. So even their own argument, they know doesn't stand up on its own. Even they know, you know what, in order to make him the bad guy, we need to make it sound like he only gave us a couple days, which honestly, I think 4 days is great. But I spent 12 days that was committed to them, and it still wasn't enough. Because for an alienator and that type of personality, it is never enough. And that is where they could say, well, we just love you so much. Well, excuse me if I wanted to spend time with you. But it is possessive, it is controlling, it is guilt-inducing. And the really ironic part about all of this is that all hell broke loose. There was lots of tears and anger. Again, my aunt went off to the side. I never really had any interaction with her, never a goodbye, nothing like that. And it was time for me to transition to go to see my dad. And I stood in the garage of what was my grandparents' house. And back when I was a child, a lot of the handoff to my dad came through my grandparents' house. I would stand in the garage. There would be all kinds of anxiety because here I'm supposed to be going with the enemy and I'm not supposed to want to go. And I would leave the garage, walk out. My dad would walk out to the driveway. My dad would come up, pick me up. He would say, hey, buddy. And, you know, I would be all kinds of stressed out because I'm not sure how to code switch. I'm supposed to not be happy. So I'm kind of just like off, you know, kind of a cold to him and not really sure what to say to him. And so here I was, you know, in my basically almost 40, in that very same garage, having a conversation with my mom saying, Mom, I don't understand this. I'm hugging her and I'm telling her, you know, I love you. And she's saying, I love you too. And I said, why does this have to happen? Why the anger? Why the possessiveness? Why the control? Why couldn't it have just been easy? Why couldn't this have just been enough? And my mom sat sobbing and crying and said, I don't know. I know. And I made some comments about my aunt, and my mom agreed. But the reality also was that I don't live there anymore. So who am I? She's not going to choose me when she has to live with my aunt. And so there was that sense of control that moves up, the generational control of moving up from who's watching you, who's commanding you, who's controlling you, who's influencing, where there's going to be hell to pay. That was all playing out all over again. And so this last time that I saw my mom with this embrace and we're both crying, the irony was that through the tears, we said goodbye. I said goodbye to my mom, hugging her, really thinking, I don't know if this is the last time I'm ever going to see my mom or hug my mom. And it's so, again, so sad and so needless. The garage door goes up. I walk out crying, sad. My dad pulls up. It was like history repeating itself. It was like a time warp. I open the door. My dad goes, "Hey, buddy." And I'm like, "Go, just drive, just drive, just drive." And that was the last time I saw my mom. But it's that same petty and controlling nature that screwed everything up again, right? Okay, we disagree on time. Okay, we disagree. You wish that you wish I did this. This is what I'm going to do. We can have a disagreement about it, but everything explodes. Everything blows up. And it was just, once again, needless and unnecessary. And again, I had thanked them a bunch of times for their generosity of staying at a lake house and everything that we did. And I did appreciate that, but it wasn't enough. But again, this is what always happens. So history repeated itself. The old habits, the old patterns, they continued and they resurfaced. And that real true person and that same personality, it showed itself all over again. So there's even more details, but for the purposes of this video, I think that really covers it. So I wanted to share that update despite my best efforts and despite my best wishes to have both parents in my life. I'm back to just having a relationship with one parent, and I try my best to do everything I can that despite everything else, I don't think I have one good parent and one bad parent. I refuse to play that game. I just look at it as this is somebody that I cannot have a relationship with, unfortunately, and I can only control my part. And sure, I'm not perfect, but I can only do what I can do. I can't control the other person and their patterns and their behaviors. I do everything I can to be better, and I wish others would do the same. Or if they are, I wish it would really show in its result. So that's my update. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on another video. Hey, it's Ryan Thomas. Thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and it also helps to spread the word. Be sure to watch other videos from this channel, and also check below this video for other resources and links to help.